worry, folks, they're not real zombies. We can't give you actual zombies, but it will still be fun. And then stick around that night for Man Night. There's going to be a lot of good food and drinks, a bonfire, a great group of guys just to hang out with. Plus, new this year, we're going to have video games, as well as all of the usual stuff like horseshoes and cornhole. Go to me2place.com/events, and we will see you there, gentlemen. We post all kinds of stuff on social media to keep you in the know about what's happening right here at DCC. So please, join us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you have a Snapchat, I don't even know what that is. And share those posts too. It's one of the easiest ways to invite our community to DCC. That's it for us this week with announcements. So, you know what to do. Let's get our worship on. Stand up, let's worship. Get those hands clapping.
Would you believe me? Would you listen if I told you that there is a love that makes a way and never holds you back? So won't you break free? Won't you break free? Get up and dance in His love. Won't you break free? Won't you break free? Get up and dance in His love. Who would have thought that God would give His one and only Son, taking the stand upon the cross to show His perfect love? So won't you break free, won't you break free, get up and dance in His love. Won't you break free, won't you break free, get up and dance in His love. His love never ending, there's no escaping the truth, there's no mistaking it's you. God forever will get up and dance, get up and dance and praise Him. Now is the time to take the freedom that has come our way. Offer our lives to see the glory of Your name. Won't you break free, won't you break free, get up and dance in His love. Won't you break free, won't you break free, get up and dance in His love. His love never ending, there's no escaping the truth, there's no mistaking it's you. God forever will get up and dance, get up and dance and praise Him. There's no escaping your life, there's no mistaking your life. Across the world we will get up and dance and praise Him. And for all our days we are holding on to all Your ways. We are holding on to all You said and You've done. And we are holding on to Your love. Now we will dance. Won't you break free, won't you break free, get up and dance. And won't you break free, won't you break free, won't you break free, get up and dance. And won't you break free, won't you break free, won't you break free, get up and dance. And won't you break free, won't you break free, won't you break free, get up and dance in His love. His love never ending, there's no escaping the truth, there's no mistaking it's You. God forever thousand stories of what they think you're like, but I've heard the tender whisper of love in the dead of night, and you tell me that you're pleased and that I'm never alone. You're a good, good father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are. And I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. Oh, I've seen many searching for answers far and wide, but I know we're all searching for answers only you provide, because you know what we need before we say a word. You're a good, good father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are, and I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. You're a good, good father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are, and I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways to us. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways to us. Love so undeniable, I can hardly speak. Peace so unexplainable, I can hardly think as you call me. Deeper still as you call me. Deeper still as you call me. Deeper still into love. Love, you're a good, good father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are, and I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. You're a good, good father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are, and I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. You're a good, good father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are, and I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. You're a good, good father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are, and I'm loved by you. Perfect in all. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. You're a good, good father. It's who you are. It's 'cause I believe that you're my portion. I believe you're more than enough for me. Jesus, you're all I need. You hold my every guys can have a seat. We're going to go into a time of communion here this morning. This is how we choose to recognize and remember the sacrifice that Jesus made for each of us. So if you've never been here with us, if you're not familiar with what this looks like, some trays are going to come up and down the aisle with a little wafer and a little cup of juice. Take one of each of those and let this be your time to sit and be still and anything like that. You don't really know what this is. You don't know where you stand. Keep moving. And you're going to hear people shattering those little plastic cups all around the room. And it's this tangible expression, this thing that we do that reminds us that it is finished. The things that hold us in bondage have no power over us anymore. That we are truly free, and through the blood of Christ, we are free. So let's pray, and then we'll have that meal together. God, we thank you for the sacrifice that you made for us, that you loved us enough, that you reminded us that remembrance is what sets us apart.
I always felt Jesus has been with me, regardless of what I went through or what I go through or what I'm going through. At 12 years old, I got diagnosed with lupus. They told me by 16 I would die. I looked at my mother and I told my mother, I won't die, don't worry about it, because I knew Jesus was right there. I just feel like he has his hands on me and tells me, don't worry about it. So I don't worry about it. 34 years later, I'm still alive. And I've had some bad tests. I've had mild heart attacks. I've not been able to get out of bed. And I've prayed, and God has gotten me through. I've seen miracles actually in front of my eyes. There's no change in my mind that God is right here. He's right here with me. I would like to thank, of course, my family, my kids, and my wife. My mother, she endured a lot. My brother had leukemia, I had lupus, so she was a very strong woman. And I would also like to thank my Auntie Kathy. She's like my second mother, and she took care of me, and to this day, there's not a day goes by that she don't tell me, I'm praying for you, you're okay, I love you. She's always had so much faith in me. And for that, that's why I asked her to baptize me. Baptism means to me that I am sacrificing the rest of my life to give to God, just like he sacrificed his life to give to me. Without him, I wouldn't be here. And he did a lot for me, and he continues to do a lot for me. So in baptism, it's just me sealing the deal and saying I'm giving 100% of my life to Jesus Christ.
That baptism is going to take place second service, so we just wanted to share that story with you. Will you guys stand with us as we sing one last song in celebration of that? Quiet and repetitive guys can have a seat. God, we thank you for this time where we can spend together, singing these songs to you and remembering who you are and what you've done for us. In your name we pray. Amen.
So hey there, good morning and welcome to Discovery Church. It is so good to see you out there this morning and to have you with us. That's always true, but it's especially true if you're brand new. And if that's you and you're new, hey, special welcome and shout out to you. And we want you to know that all of your story is safe and welcome in this place, regardless of how it reads. You belong with us, regardless of what you believe, even if it doesn't line up with what we happen to believe. And you're in a Me Too place today. You're in a Me Too place today. So what does it mean by Me Too? What do we mean when we say that? Here's what we mean. You're in a place today that is full of people who, I promise you, are exactly like you. And so I hope you've already felt that and you've experienced that just in your time here with us today. You want to come back and do this again with us very soon, hopefully even next week. So special shout out and welcome to you if you're brand new, and of course to all of our online friends who are tuning in out there right now too. Good to have you with us. You know, this is an especially exciting day for me. So it's not just because school started back and so people come back to church, and I mean, there is that. But I get excited about being in this place every single week. But this is an especially exciting day for me because 9 years ago today, I stood up in Sand Creek High School for the very first time as the new pastor of this struggling little church plant in front of like 100 people or less, this little church plant called Discovery Church. That was 9 years ago. And it's been an amazing journey. It's been an amazing journey with some really incredibly difficult seasons. There's no doubt about that. But I want you to know, as I stand up here today, I have never been more excited about this vision than I am today. I've never been more excited about this vision than I am today. I really believe that the very best is yet to come in this, and I'm pumped about this fall. When we go to 4 services, we had Saturday night services. I'm pumped about what God's going to do in this place through that, and I really believe we're going to look back on that. We're going to look back on this season. We're going to say, you know what, I'm really glad that I got to be a part of that. So stay tuned, stay around, jump in with us, just hang out, and I think that's what you're going to see. This past Thursday, I was downtown for lunch, which was a bad idea because it was that bike race. I didn't plan it. I got invited. So, and I was like, why did I do this? But anyway, I met Jason, who's the lead pastor over at Red Rock Church, and then I met my friend Yemi, who used to be a First Pres, and now he runs City Serve, and he works for the city as well. And we had a great time together with these two guys. We met at Bingo Burgers, and I'd never been to Bingo Burgers, and so I just need to pause and say this: God is in Bingo Burgers. I just have to say that. I mean, it was so good for my heart. I mean, not literally, it was bad for my heart, but it was the conversation, the emotional piece that was so good for my heart. As we just talked and celebrated and dreamed together. We celebrated what God's doing through City Serve, this annual initiative thing we got going on, and then through this Cause I Love You, Colorado Springs I Love You movement that we were part of starting, and we're part of leading here in our city, and we celebrated Easter. I don't know if you weren't around, but this past Easter, like 30 churches came together in our city, and in one day, we raised over $200,000 to help our homeless friends in the city and gave it as a gift to Springs Rescue Mission. Unbelievable. Yeah, you can clap for that. That was unbelievable. Here's the thing. Like First Pres has been around since right after Jesus. I mean, they've been around forever in this city. It's like 160 years or so. It's true, right? They were one of the first big churches here. So anyway, this is unprecedented. What happened on Easter is unprecedented in our city. It's never happened before. So we celebrate that. Then we celebrated 1,500 people from all these different churches. I don't remember how many, 12, 15. Last year came out for City Serve, and we hit the streets, and we did all these service projects around the city in one day on a Saturday and just showed the love of Jesus with no strings attached. So we celebrated that together as we're reliving that stuff. And then we started dreaming about this year. What's going to happen this year when thousands of us hit the streets for City Serve this year. It's coming up. September 30th is the date. And we're going to hit the streets again. There's going to be many more churches and many more people. And so mark your calendar, right? September 30th. Write that date down. Save the date, save the date. September 30th, you need to be a part of that. Last year we had over 400 people, 400 DCC people. So our people were like a third or a fourth of the whole crowd. This year we need more than that. When I was at lunch with Jason on Thursday, he told me, he said, you know what? We're challenging our Red Rock people. We need 500 volunteers. Now, let me say something about that. They are about a third, give or take, of the size of our church. I'm just saying, all right? Jason is my friend. I like him a lot. He's somebody for me to lean on, like we're talking about in this series. But I want to crush him. I want to crush him in the name of Jesus. Okay, so let's crush them in the name of Jesus. What do you say, okay? So there we go. We're going to do it. So what's the point? Other than I'm just not a good person. All right, so hey, the point is this. We are so much better together. We're so much better together. Churches, we're so much better together. Individually, we're so much better together too. You know, there was a point in my life where I didn't really know whether or not what we're talking about in this series and what we're talking about today was even possible for me. Very early on in Colorado Springs, I had an experience. I had a very bad, painful experience in a room full of pastors out at Glen Erie. It was just shortly after I got to this city that left me feeling unwanted, unwelcomed, disliked, and wondering if I would ever have a real relationship with one single other pastor in this city. And that's one of the things that made Thursday so special for me, because I walked away from that not only blown away by all the amazing things that God's doing here in our city, but blown away by the relationship that I have with the two guys that I just had lunch with. You see, here's the thing. It took me a long time in my life to figure this out. I had to travel a very long path. And so here's the thing. I want to do my absolute best to shorten that path, to make that path much shorter for you. And that's why we're doing this series. Listen, we all need some people to lean on, but it's more than that. We really need a few people that we know, that we're really close to, that we know that we can really lean into, right? And so we've been talking about that. We started talking about that last week, and I want to talk about it more today. It's like, okay, yeah, I get that and all of that, and that sounds great and good. It's not just about having a few people to lean on. Here's where I want to go today. It's about having a few of the right people to lean on. And that sounds great, and it sounds awesome, but here's the question. How do you do that? And what does that look like in our lives and in our stories? That's what I want us to unpack and sort through in the rest of the time we have left together today. So let's jump back into this. Let's do it. We're going to Ecclesiastes, Old Testament today, chapter 4. So if you brought a Bible and you want to get it out, go ahead and get your Bible out. That's cool. If not, Bible's on the back table. If you really want to hold one and do it, it's there. If that's not awkward or weird for you. If it is, grab one on your way out. You can hit our program. You can hit our app. You can hit YouVersion. You can do a lot of things. You can read off that piece of paper we handed you when you came in here, or you can just read with me on the screens. Everything I read is going to be on these screens. And let me just say this as we're jumping into it. These are the words of God written through a guy named Solomon, who happened to be the wisest guy ever on the face of the earth other than Jesus. So what kind of wisdom is God giving Solomon for us? That's the question. Let's go. Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verse 4. Excuse me. And I saw that all toil and all achievement spring from one person's envy of another. And this too is meaningless, the chasing after the wind. Fools fold their hands and ruin themselves. Better one handful with tranquility or peace than two handfuls with toil and chasing after the wind. Again, I saw something meaningless under the sun. There was a man all alone. He had neither son nor brother, but there was no end to his toil. Yet his eyes were not content with his wealth. For whom am I toiling, he asked, and why am I depriving myself of enjoyment? This too is meaningless, a miserable business. All right, let's stop right there and let's talk about this for a second. Let's talk about the guy that Solomon's talking about here. So here I have a few questions. Are there people around this guy? Yes. Are there opportunities for relationship everywhere around him? Yes. Then why is he all alone? That's a great question. And it seems like to me, when I read what Solomon's writing here, that he's distracted. His attention is more on something else. This thing that a lot of us can probably relate to called workaholism. Anybody else ever here suffer from that from time to time? Yeah, me too. Right? And so what is his motivation? What is behind his toil it out, work, work? What's his motive behind that? He says it's envy. And I see what you have and I want that. So how does Solomon describe this pursuit that this man is on? He says it's meaningless. It's a chasing after. You're chasing after the wind. In other words, you're chasing after something you're never going to catch. You're never going to get your arms around. Now, so it would be easy for us, and it would be beneficial for us to pause right here and to spend some time talking about envy. The Bible says envy rots your bones. That's not good. So we could talk about envy, and that'd be time well spent. We could talk about workaholism or being a workaholic. You know, the disease that a lot of us are tempted to fall, this thing we fall into, and that would be time well spent. But I think there's a better way. I think a better use of our time together today is to do this, to pause right here and to focus on this, all right? Here it is, relationships. Relationships and the potential for real relationships often get lost in our pursuit of all we think will bring us happiness. Relationships and the potential for real relationship, what we're really pointing to in this series, often get lost in our pursuit of what we think will bring us happiness. It's true. And so here's the first question for today. All right, I got 3 questions. Going to sound the same. The end's going to be a little bit different. Three different versions of the same question. Make this question personal. When I look at the relationships that exist in my life, the relationships that I'm currently pursuing or that I'm interested in pursuing, I want you to throw them all in the same bucket. When I look at all those relationships, how many of those relationships are, here it is, beyond surface level? How many of those relationships, all these relationships in my life, how many of those are beyond surface level? Now, here's why I think this is such an important question for you and me, okay? Because it is possible for us to have plenty of relationships present in our life and to still be relationally bankrupt. That's some of our stories as we're sitting here today, isn't it? We got relationships in place in our life we couldn't feel more alone. It is possible for us to have plenty of relationships and still be relationally bankrupt. My daughter Sloan, my second daughter, has 2,500 friends on Facebook. I'm like, what? She didn't even know 2,500 people, right? They're not her friends. She got all these supposed relationships in place. People all around her, right? I think I know her, whatever. And she's not relationally bankrupt, but it's very possible for us to be that. So here's a basic truth that I just want to throw out there, and I think we need to wrestle through it and chew on it and hopefully come to terms with it. Are you ready? Most of us are not comfortable with anyone poking around beneath the surface in our lives. We're not. We're just not. I got an email, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks ago from a guy who was asking me for a counseling referral. And he started telling me a story, and I was kind of being drawn into stories. Like, we were looking for a church, me and my family, and we found DCC, and we love DCC, and da-da-da. I'm like, oh, I like this. And then he said, and then we left. And so I was like, whoa. And so I was like, okay. And he kept writing, so I kept reading, and it said, we left because we just felt like, you tell your story too much. And I just tell you this. Listen, I get that criticism from time to time. I really do. And here's what I want you to know about that, okay? I want to say this again. It's not my story, it's our story. And I'm pointing down here to my wife, not to Wade. He's down here too. But to my wife, Stacy, okay? It is not my story, it's our story. And I've said this before, but the moment that God or Stacy tells me they're not comfortable with me talking about it anymore, I will stop. But you need to understand the heartbeat of my wife. Here's what she sees. It takes her back, but she sees the help and hope that it's bringing other people. She is the primary person behind the fact that I keep telling our story. And you need to know that. But that doesn't stop people. Some people get critical. They don't like that, and all that. But his tone, it was weird because his tone wasn't criticism, it was apologetic. And I kept reading the email. He went on to say this. Ultimately, here's what it came down to. As he sat here in the seat every single week, he was in the middle of an affair. And here's what happened. Me pointing to and talking about the mess beyond the surface in my past was poking into, pushing on, and prodding the mess beneath the surface in his present. And man, we don't like that. And our knee-jerk reaction is to what? We don't move towards that. We move away from it. I want to throw something on the screen here. I've used this several times, but it's so good for us just to go back to it. There it is. That's your life. And it's my life too. This is an image of our lives. Only 10% of the iceberg's above the waterline. Only 10%. And that's my life too, right? Most people can only see a small part of it. And that's where I'm comfortable, right? So I stay above the waterline. I stay at surface level. This is where most of us live our lives. Most of our lives and relationships in our lives don't venture below the waterline. They stay right at or above the waterline. My start in ministry, I came to ministry in an unconventional way. I was a trial attorney for 10 years. And some people hear that and they go, oh, and then you became a Christian. I'm like, no. Right? That's a bad attorney joke. No. was already a Christian. Anyway, so I'm in this church, and I get asked to share my story and then to help start and lead a men's ministry at Southeast Christian Church, my home church in Louisville, Kentucky. Bob Russell, senior pastor, asked me to do that. It was a church of 9,000 or 10,000 people at the time. And so I did that. I started this men's ministry, and we got it going. I got them to tell my story, and we challenged guys to get in groups, and 150 guys in one day. They had this Bible study, had a couple hundred guys in it. 150 guys in one day said, put me in a group. So we put them in 30 accountability groups. And they took off gangbusters. And like 3 months in, we're looking at it like, wow, this is awesome. And guys' lives are changing. They're loving it and all this stuff. Well, about 6 months in or so, we noticed that the group started to just kind of fall apart a little bit and lose momentum and all this. And so I started visiting some groups to figure out what was going on. And here's how I diagnosed the problem. Every single group was the same. Every single group that I walked into had reached this point that I came to define as the breaking point. And this breaking point that this group of people, small group of guys had come to, was this point where they were either going to break through it and it was going to be incredible for them, an incredible experience for them, or the group was going to break up. They're right there. They're at this breaking point. Now, the question is, what would determine which way it would go? And what I found was this. The answer was, would anyone in that group be willing to venture beneath the waterline in their own life and story, and then would the rest of the group support that? And here's what I'm trying to get to. Weekly accountability questions are great, but weekly accountability questions are not capable of taking our relationships beneath the waterline, beyond surface level most of the time. They're just not. And this is why I love Wild at Heart. This is why I love Captivating. It's why I love it. It's why I love the Ransomed Heart message, a message that saved my life and saved my marriage and is so responsible for who I am today. I love, this is why Ransomed Heart and the message of story and rescue and hope, it's a non-negotiable in this place. This is why when you go through, we really challenge you to get this timeline. It's nothing but a piece of paper or a few pieces of paper, but we challenge you to walk through this timeline and begin to unpack your story and then share that with a few other people. This is the why behind all of that stuff, right? It's to help us to start to what? To start to venture beneath the surface, but beneath surface level in our lives and in our stories. Now, having said that, I just want to admit this. It's easier said than done. I get that. This thing that we're chasing after and getting these relationships this place is easier said than done. I'll never forget the very first time I saw my wife, Stacy. I was in 7th grade. And she walked in the room. She was new to the school. I'd been there the year before. And I saw her, and I said, done. It's over. You know the song, I Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For? I just found it. I'd never talked to her, didn't know her name. I didn't care. She was beautiful, and I'm like, that sign, seal, deliver. I'm done. Unfortunately, she didn't know that. And she didn't agree, right? And so that was a problem for me. So 4.5 years of what? Of her having other boyfriends and other relationships, which I got to be the boyfriend consultant, best friend. That's awesome. And so, but anyway, 4.5 years later, she said, well, maybe he's kind of who I'm looking for too. And so what's the point in that? The point is this. Sometimes it takes a lot of trial and error. Sometimes it takes us some time to find those few people and some effort to find those few people that we can venture beneath the waterline with in our lives and in our stories. Several years ago, my friend and mentor, Craig McConnell, who passed away last year, he went down to, this is the guy who took me deeper and further below the waterline in my own life and story than anybody ever has before. So several years ago, he went down to Texas to meet with this world-renowned counselor for an intensive week of counseling. And he came back from that, and he was sharing some of that with me. In fact, he shared a little recording with me of one of the early sessions with this guy, 2 or 3 minutes. I got to hear the back and forth between the two of them. It was very, very interesting to me. It was very interesting to me because here's this guy that I'm looking at sitting in his office, Craig, and this guy who's helped me go way below the waterline in my life and story. I've taken him deeper than I've ever taken anybody before. And in that conversation with his counselor, he was struggling to allow this guy to go there with him. In fact, the summary was, Craig told me, he says, you know what the ultimate conclusion was? He says, Craig, you're a hard man to get to know. And here's the point. Here's the guy who took me as deep as I've ever been, struggling himself to allow someone to go there with him. See, he had to work really hard. He had to work really hard not to draw the line at the waterline or to keep things above the waterline. And I'm telling you, this is all we all do, don't we? Yes, we do. The song Lean on Me, kind of the whole basis of this series, has this lyric. It says this: no one can fill those of your needs that you won't let show. There is a lot of truth in that lyric. And so here's my question. How many of the relationships that currently exist in your life are beyond surface level? It's a very, very important question. All right? Gets harder. Let's keep reading. Verse 9. 2 are better than one because they have good return for their labor. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up. But pity anyone who falls down and has no one to help them up. All right? That reminds me of the song too. Just call on me, brother, when you need a hand. And that's what we do. I mean, we naturally do that. Hey, my car broke down. Can you jump me? Hey, I'm going to move. Can you help me out? Need $20. Can you spot me at 20 until next payday or whatever it is? We don't have any problem asking for people to help us out and help us up, do we? Now, we naturally do that. But I think it's important here that we don't limit what's going on here in this moment to just that. That we force ourselves to look deeper. So let's go back to the question. Second question. When I look at the relationships that exist in my life, that I'm currently pursuing or that I'm interested in pursuing. So all the relationships, right? They're all there, right? The ones I want, the ones I have, all that stuff. How many of those relationships are mission-focused? Mission-focused. And I'm telling you, this is where it breaks down for most of us. Think about it. Solomon paints this picture here of two people who are side by side, working hard together. They have good return for their work. These two people side by side working together. Two people in the trenches on mission together. Think about it. I want you to just think about it for a second. Why is it that teams who compete together, and like soldiers and sailors and airmen and Coast Guard Marines and who fight together, why is it they naturally get so close? You know what the answer is? Because there is no substitute for being side by side or back to back in the foxhole, in the trenches, in the battle, on mission together. I love how John Eldridge at Ransomed Heart, how he describes this and how he unpacks this. And so maybe this will help us. Let's watch this.
I see a band of brothers as sharing two things. It is a group of men who share a deep friendship with one another and who share a common mission. See, because you can have guys in the corporate world, for example, have a common mission, right? We got to, beat the next guy. We got the bottom line here, We need to grab our market share. But they don't have friendships. Not really, not deep friendships. And so it ends up being hollow. It's purely about that task. It's a task-oriented group, and therefore it's based on performance. And if you don't perform well, you're out. Or there's the opposite of that. I think there are guys who have had maybe groups of friends for years. Every year they go deep sea fishing together, or every Saturday morning they play, 18 holes together. They may have some friendships, but there's no shared mission. There's no higher purpose that those friendships are called upon to serve. Right? So you kind of have either one. What I'm really looking for are groups of men who share deep and honest friendship with a common mission. Have you ever had that?
Have you ever had that? Do you really have that? John's talking about it in the context of band of brothers and groups of men, but it's so much broader than that. We need deep friendship, and we need a mission. I like to say it this way. We all need deep friendship around a mission. Back in 1996, I was struggling in my life, just with life choices and a lot of stuff. I was 3 years into practicing law and joined a firm and was making some good money and just trying to figure things out. And so I talked to a Christian buddy of mine. He invited me to a men's group that he was meeting with on Friday mornings at 5:30 a.m. I'm like, who does that? 5:30 freaking a.m. And I'm like, man, and everything in me when he said that screamed no. It's like, Greg, you don't do this, right? You don't go into these things. You don't kumbaya. You don't hold hands and sing songs with dudes. It's just not, especially not at 5:30 a.m. on a Friday morning. But here's the thing I knew. I knew that my life and my marriage was headed for disaster if I didn't. And so I went. And it was weird, and it was awkward, and it was uncomfortable. No question about it. We get to the end of the meeting, they slide their chairs up, hold out their hands. I'm like, what the? Yeah, hold my hand, brother. We're going to pray. And you know what? I don't know why I did, but I went back. And it got better. And then it got better. And I kept going. And so when I went, the only person out of the 6 other guys that I knew was my friend Mike. And then I met this guy in the group named Robert. And he and I became really, really close friends. I mean, he became like one of my best friends ever, just like that. And so we stayed in this group, and it was going well for about 6 months, maybe 9 months. And then all of a sudden, it just started to feel flat. You ever done that? You ever been with a group like, this is awesome. It just felt ho-hum. It felt like, it's just like, what? And you found yourself looking for excuses not to show up. It's like, yeah, I got a deposition this morning. It's actually not till 11, but I got to get ready. And, I didn't actually bail, but I wanted to. It just lost something. Well, it was about that same time that I was asked to lead this men's ministry at our church, at Southeast Christian Church. So I came to my group, and I said, guys, here's the deal. I don't know what I'm doing, right? I don't know anything about men's ministry, and this was before Wild at Heart was even written. And I said, I need you to help me. Let's form a leadership team. So we became the leadership team for the men's ministry. And you know what happened? This group that was ho-hum, that had lost momentum, just kind of like, what are we doing? All of a sudden, it had a life and a vitality like it never had before. Why? Because now we didn't just have friendship. We had friendship around a mission. It makes a huge difference. Do you have this? Do you have this? Back to John's question. Do you really have that? Have you really experienced that? See, this is why Thursday was such a big deal to me. This is why I was so pumped up, even though I was in traffic. I'm like, I want to run over somebody on a bike. But anyway, but this is why, not really. This is why Thursday I was leaving. I was just kind of in this, this is so good, because those guys are not only my friends, we're on mission together. We're in mission together, redefining Christian in this city, changing what people think when they hear the word Christian in this city. That's what we're doing together. That's been our vision as a church all along, but now we got other churches beside us doing it, and it's bigger than us. We can't do that by ourselves. I'm like, yes, this is what it's all about. This is why Thursday fired me up so much. This is why we push and emphasize serving in this church. Why do we push you and emphasize serving? Oh, it's all about you. No, it's not. It's about you. Yeah, we push and emphasize serving. This is why we push small groups. Don't just meet together, serve together. Jump in and serve in the cafe, or serve with our food truck out on the streets, or serve with one of our mission partners. We don't care. Just do this. Serve together. Every one of the men and women, every one of the guys and gals in my personal small group, Stacey and I are in a life group, 5 other couples here, every single one of those people is on mission with me in this place every single week. They're either in the cafe, they're in the parking lot, they serve as an elder, they run our prayer team, something. They're all on mission with me. And I'm telling you, it makes a huge difference. Look, here's the deal. We don't have to look very far in our city to find Christians meeting together, do we? I mean, you go to any coffee shop, any given day of the week, in any coffee shop, there they are. And also in pubs and breweries if they go to DCC. I'm just saying. So, but you know what I'm talking about, right? You see them. I was over at Doug's Diner, I don't know, a few months back, and I walked in, I was meeting someone for breakfast, and there's a table, and there must have been 15, 20 young, good-looking young people. They looked like they just worked out. They all had on their workout clothes, and there's a dude in the middle of the table, big, giant Bible, because it's got to be a giant Bible, right? So big, giant Bible, wide open, and he's just bringing it to the whole table. Okay. And now, am I saying that's a bad thing? No, that's a good thing. I'm not saying it's not a good thing. Here's what I'm doing. I'm just asking this question. Is there a reason why Solomon points to 2 people side by side in the trenches working together that rather than 2 people sitting at a table with a Bible in between them? I'm not going to answer that. I just want you to think about that. Am I suggesting that working side by side is more important than Bible study? No, I'm not, but I am suggesting this. This side by side on mission piece is the piece that most of us are missing. And it's so much bigger than the sum of what you do and what you do and what you do and what I do. It's so much bigger than that. It's not what you accomplish plus what you accomplish plus what you accomplish plus what I accomplish. There it is. No. That stuff, great stuff happens. We are better together, but here's what also happens. We take a look in the mirror, and here's what we recognize. The relationships that I have in my life, the very closest relationships, happen to be with the people that I am on mission with. Try it. You got to try it. I promise you it is true. So when you look at your life as you sit here today, here's the question. How many of my friendships are really focused on a mission beyond the friendship? Because most of our friendships, the mission is the friendship. How many relationships, how many of my friendships right now are focused on a mission beyond just the friendship? It's a very important question. All right, let's finish this. Just a couple more verses and we'll call it a day. Also, if 2 lie down together, they will keep warm. But how can one keep warm alone? Though one may be overpowered, 2 can defend themselves. A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. All right, so what's this three-strand stuff all about? That's the question. I mean, I've heard, two's company, three's a crowd. I mean, I've just kind of heard that in my life, right? Two's great, two's better than one, but three's a crowd. It's just there. And so when you start to think about this three-strand thing, I mean, come on, let's be honest. In the context of relationship, it gets dangerous, creepy, and weird. It does. Right? It's like, honey, I love you, you love me, but what if? No. Right? Now listen to this. Dad, I don't know a lot of things, but I know this. That's not what Solomon's talking about here. All right? We're talking about a dude who had 700 wives and 300 concubines. 1,000 women in his life. Right? Now that's, somebody said, ooh. Okay, another discussion for another day. That's a sermon series right there. But we'll do that some other time, okay? That's not what he's pointing us to here. And see, here's the problem for me right here. This is the problem. I can't prove this, and it bugs me because the lawyer in me wants to prove it. I can't prove this, but I have to ask you, okay, even though I can't prove it, would you at least consider this? What if the third strand here is Jesus? So there's me, and there's you, and there's Jesus. And I want you to think about that in the context of the question. When I look at the current relationships that exist in my life, the ones I'm pursuing, the ones I'm interested in pursuing, how many of those relationships are, here it is, Jesus-centered? Where is Jesus in the mix of my current closest relationships? Now, I don't know about you, but of all the aspects of relationship, this is the one that I have struggled the most with during my life. If you came to our house and you walked through our house and you looked on the walls, here's what you would think is important to us. Our family. It's big. Jesus. Rescue. Me too. The things on the wall, that's the diet you're going to get. You see those things, you're going to say, man, Jesus and rescue and me too and your family. That's what's most important to you based on the stuff hanging on the walls. But if you came to my house and stayed with us for a week, here's what you'd also see. Sometimes Jesus slips from the center of our relationships, our family, and our marriage. And I don't like it, and we don't do it intentionally. It's just true. It is. Sometimes he doesn't slip from the center of the church. I can't do that because that's what I do. I do church. So the church doesn't slip from the center of our marriage and our family and relationships. I mean, but Jesus does. He does. And can I tell you where I see it the most? I see it in my prayer life with my wife, Stacy. That's where I see it the most. The thing that makes my girl's heart come alive like nothing else. Flowers. She I don't know what happened, but about 5 years ago, she decided flowers are important. For the first 28 years of marriage, they weren't, but now they are. And I know that. That's a good thing, okay? So I brought flowers home. She loves flowers. So I brought flowers home a week ago Friday, and I brought them in, and she looked at me, she looked at the flowers, and she bust into tears, and it wasn't happy. I'm like, what did I do? I still can't figure it out. So anyway, but flowers, she loves that. But the thing that makes Stacy's heart come alive more than anything else, guys, listen to me, more than anything else is when I pray with her. And I pray for her. And I pray for us. And I pray for our girls. And I pray for my grandkids. Every once in a while for my son-in-laws. And so there's nothing that moves her heart like us praying together, and yet I forget. I get tied up in Sports Center or the latest book that I'm reading, or I'm just too tired and I decide to take a pass. And she just turns over and goes to sleep. And I take a pass, not only praying, I take a pass on this thing that is so important, helping keep Jesus at the center of our relationship. See, here's what I'm trying to get to. Listen. We spend so much time as church people and Christians and people trying to follow Jesus, chasing after all of these tips and techniques that are supposed to lead us to experiencing Jesus. I mean, we got the list, right? We got the church list. Here it is. You want to experience Jesus, you need this and this and this. How about this, okay? I'm going to say this. I may be wrong, but I'm not. There is no better way to experience Jesus than through a relationship or two or three that is centered on Jesus. There is no better way for you to experience Jesus than through a relationship or two or three relationships that are truly centered on Jesus. Back in 1998, I lost one of my best friends ever in a very tragic car accident. It was Robert, the guy that I just talked about a few minutes ago that I met in the 5:30 a.m. Friday morning group. He was working late one night. He was going home. His car ran out of gas. So he crossed a highway. He was getting ready to cross another one. It was right at the intersection of two big highways. He came out of the grass median. A pickup truck was coming. He tried to beat it. He didn't. It hit him. He immediately died, leaving his wife, Tracy, and his two young daughters, Shelby and Lindsay, who happened to be the same age as my two oldest two at the time, like 6 and 4. And so it rocked our worlds. About 3 weeks later, we found out that Robert's blood alcohol level was over twice the legal limit. And I was pissed, and I was devastated, and I was heartbroken. Because, see, I knew Robert had an alcohol issue in his past. I didn't know it was carrying into his present. And it breaks my heart today when I think about that. I mean, it's 19 years later. It still breaks my heart when I think about that, because here's this guy, and despite the fact that we're so close, I mean, we're like brothers. I mean, this was the real deal. One of the first. You know, I talked about Dave last week. Robert's another one. It's like, this is good, and this is my brother. Despite the fact that we were that close, he had stuff beneath the water level in his life that he didn't feel like he could bring to me. And I believe in accountability. But my buddy and my accountability partner ultimately lost his life because we couldn't get beyond that. And so we spent all this time doing the only thing that we knew to do. We're treating the symptoms, and we're not paying any attention to the source behind the symptoms. We didn't even know there was a source behind the symptoms. We didn't know it existed. We were just managing behavior. It was all that we knew to do. We didn't know about story and glory and rescue and all that Jesus came to do for us. The things that we talk about in this place every single week, we had no clue. And I think about that today, and it makes me really, really sad, because I don't blame myself, but here's the thought. If only I had known then what I know now, maybe things could have been different. And the good news for us is this: things can be different for me and for you. See, we have a tendency to settle for relationships that are 1 or 2 out of 3. Oh, we're on mission together, work side by side in a cubicle every week. Yeah, but do you ever talk about stuff in your life? Not really. Where's Jesus? Oh, we don't talk about that. Right? Oh, I serve beside him in the church every single week, and we're in a Bible study, so we're constantly talking about Jesus. Yeah, but are you in your story with them and what Jesus wants to do and come in your story? Oh, no. We won't talk about that. It's so easy for us to settle for relationships at 1 or 2 out of 3 and what our hearts are longing for. Every one of us is to find a few relationships where it's 3 out of 3. How many relationships do you have in your life today that have all 3? And here's the thing. We are committed to helping you find it. We are determined and committed in this place to helping you find it. Now, it requires you to take a step. It's going to require you to take a step. And so, listen, there's all kinds of steps in front of you. 2 weeks from tonight, group link. Put it on your calendar and show up. And we will do everything in our power to make it as easy as possible for you. Serve somewhere in the church. I'm wearing this shirt today because our kids' ministry is rebranding, and boom, we're getting ready for Saturday nights coming. Can I tell you something? Parents of young children love to bring their kids to church on Saturday night, so they don't have to deal with trying to get them ready in the mornings. So we're going to have an influx, an army of new kids back there who need to hear about the hope of Jesus, and we need a ton of people. And so you need to be wearing one of these shirts. Maybe that's it. Jump in and serve somewhere in this place. If it's not here, where is it? Jump in and serve somewhere in this place. And here's the thing. You're like, yeah, okay, here it is. Sales pitch. No. Listen, don't do it for us. Do it for you. And watch what God does through that. We all need a few somebodies to more than lean on. How do we find them? We got to continue to take steps. Continue to take steps. Continue to take steps until we find a few relationships that are beyond surface level, that are focused on a larger mission, and that are centered on Jesus. Do you have that? And I'm hoping that you'll walk away here in this week, that you will decide that you will help us, help you find that. Thanks for being here today. A lot more to talk about, but it's next week, so I hope you come back. Let me pray for us. Jesus, thanks for these people. And this thing that we're talking about is hard and it's scary. And the problem is, every one of us, every heart in this room has history. We've tried and we've been burned before. And just everything in us says, nope, not going to do that again. Jesus, the life you came to bring us is beneath the waterline. Would you bring some people into our lives? Help us to just have the courage to take some steps, to start to reach out, to start to look around. And would you bring some people, a few people for every heart in this room that we can do life closely with, some people that we can go beyond the waterline with, that we can go deep, that we can be on mission side by side with. But a relationship, most importantly, Jesus said, is centered around you and all you created, all of our relationships to be. Come, Jesus, bring that to us. Help us have the courage to take steps towards it. In your name, amen. Hey, thanks for being here today. Real quick, if you want to talk about some other next steps or connection points in this place, go out, look left to the garage. There's a room there where they'd love to talk to you and meet you and help you out with that. There's prayer people under the screens to my right over here and my left, right after the walkout song. Wake your way down here. Great people to talk with and to pray with you. Listen, guys, for men especially, Saturday is a special day coming up, guys. It is our zombie shoot in the morning, man night at night, and you can be out there all day out at the ranch. It's a tremendous opportunity. Man night is one of my favorite things of the entire year, and it's just a hangout. Remember I said, bring a gun, have some fun. So don't miss that. And last but not least, if you believe in what God's doing in this place, you want to partner with us or be on mission with us financially, we'd love that. We just hang some boxes on the wall back there and don't push anything in your face, or you can hit our website or our app if you choose to do that. Hey, thanks for being here today. I'll be by the fireplace if you want to talk to me. Looking forward to leading us through Lean on Me week 3 next week. Have a good week.
Would you believe me? Would you listen if I told you there is a love that makes a way and never holds you back? Won't you break free? Won't you break free? Get up and dance in His love. Won't you break free? Won't you break free? Get up and dance in His love. Who would have thought that God would give His one and only Son? Taking this stand upon the cross to show His perfect love. Won't you break free? Won't you break free? Get up and dance in His love. Won't you break free? Won't you break free? Get up and dance in His love. His love never ending. There's no escaping the truth. There's no mistaking it's you. God forever will. Get up and dance. Get up and dance. Praise Him. There's disappointed children in the alleyway. There's disappointed children in your eyes. The blue will turn to green eventually. I promise you there'll be light. You're safe here, safe here. Broken body, poured out blood. You're safe here, you're safe here, you're safe here. Broken body, poured out blood. You're safe here. This disappointed child.